Hello! And welcome to the 40th anniversary episode of Modern Media Review. It's the Ruby anniversary, Sean.
I like that.
Yeah, of the podcast that's frankly the same quality whether we do it at home or in the studio or in the shed or in the street.
Absolutely.
I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Golladley.
Yes, and we've been away for a while, haven't we? Some technical issues, really. Can't thank Apple very much for that. And then some prime ministerial issues, because I, for one, I don't know about you, but I didn't think it would be polite to comment when he was potentially in a box.
Exactly.
But now he's back, quite quickly actually, and we've hurried back because you can't ignore the big issue, can you, forever? Brexit.
Like Brexit, yeah. I mean, whatever happened to Brexit?
Well, no, I mean, I don't think we can deal with Brexit at the moment. Things are too serious, but I do hope we get some acclaim for this podcast, because on all known evidence, we're much better at Skype than Newsnight or Robert Peston or anything like
that. They do look frankly baffled a lot of the time when they're looking at their screens and sort of like not looking quite where to look.
Well, you get the psychopath who stares straight into the camera.
always a touch worrying.
Diego Maradona style. Actually, we should make the whole thing deliberately low quality to get in step with the rest of the media. Some of it's been awful, especially if I get news for you. It just doesn't work.
Well, the trouble is, they're prompting each other to laugh, aren't they? Or waiting, and you've got that... They seem to have some weird sound delay. Do you remember when satellite TV first came in? And they'd have the bloke holding his ear, you know, how rock stars do in the studio. And they'd be talking, and then they'd have to wait 10 minutes for the other person to hear it.
Yeah, the only programme I've seen of current affairs in this crisis that was good was Newsnight the other night, when Emily Maitlis did her acclaimed John Pilger, Women of the People moment. And there was three of them in the studio, all next to each other with no social distancing, and it was good quality. And they had makeup. Because that's another problem with this. Everyone looks awful. They're all on Skype looking sort of pasty.
Well, the thing is, I'm so professional, Robin, that even though we're not videoing this, I am fully made up and wearing a very nice salmon pink shade of lipstick, actually.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. To match your polo shirt, yeah. Yeah, so, you were going to say, Sean, weren't you, about part of the reason why you were delayed?
Absolutely nothing to do with, technical issues or social distancing or anything like that. I've basically been short-selling the country since January. Made myself a pile of money and...
Someone's got to.
You know, always winners and losers, Robin. You know, always be a winner. And so I've bought myself a Caribbean island, and it's basically taken me forever to get down there and get a load of lads to hook me up with a 5G network and the fastest broadband I can get.
It's not easy to get to the Caribbean from Banstead, is it?
No, I had to race Richard Branson to get there.
You know what? The UK government policy on COVID-19 should really be on our other podcast, The Real Gambling Review, because that's what they are, a bunch of gambling chancellors.
Well, the great thing is, when you're not being allowed to go out, obviously, you're looking at all the media outlets, and if you even go back a week, 2 weeks, it's like black as white. Somebody's now saying something completely different to what was going on before.
Well, no one can remember what happened before. It was all Paris Hilton in the kitchen, and who remembers that anymore? And we can't do any gambling at all, except like on ping pong from Belarus. For some reason, they're still allowed to do everything in Belarus.
But have you been getting prompts to go onto the online casinos?
No, I'm obviously not sad enough to be prompted into that.
Well, obviously I am, because I've been getting plenty of them. And I was just thinking, what could possibly go wrong? It's either that or up till 4 a.m, binging on, I don't know, some box set. So
yeah, I'm not convinced that there's anything worth binging on. Certainly not on the BBC showing bloody half a sixpence in Indiana Jones. They need to up their game during this crisis.
Hold on a minute. You've gone a bit Tory on this one, Robin.
Look, anyway, it's not half a sixpence is not a memorable virus media moment.
You're joking.
No, but there have been a few, and I think because it's been a while now, we should really start with the best ones of recent days and then work back. And I think that there's an obvious one the past couple of days.
This was an absolute classic from the ever-reliable Eamonn Holmes, who always manages to upset somebody at some stage every day, it seems. So Eamonn's on this morning, and they've got Alice Beer on there, who's their sort of like consumer expert, and a bit like a sort of like younger version of Esther Rantzen.
Right.
Anyway, so she was talking about fake news and conspiracy theories, and She was assuring us that we couldn't get coronavirus through the 5G mobile phone network.
I'm glad of that because I was really worried.
Well, I was so concerned about it that recently I've been out burning down masts and what have you, and I was a bit upset when Alice stepped in and said there is no conspiracy theory where the establishment are attempting to cull the human race, which obviously I was a bit gutted about, until Eamonn retorted, saying that he started off saying, I totally agree with you, which he didn't, actually, because he went on to say, what I don't accept is mainstream media immediately slapping that down as not true when they don't know it's not true. It's very easy to say it's not true because it suits the state narrative. That's all I would say as someone with an inquiring mind.
I mean, and also, this mainstream media. He's presenting the ITV morning show.
No, mate, he's in a bunker. He's sticking it to the man.
I mean, I was very impressed that he said state narrative. The state narrative. It's like full bung Angry Brigade stuff, that, isn't it? It's like he's at home assembling pipe bombs at the moment.
Absolutely.
You're going to set him off in a studio to prove the state can't protect its own citizens.
But you can imagine him sitting at home in his camouflage like a Minuteman in the woods in America.
Anyway, though, he's apologised.
Has he?
Well, he had to because he got like 400 complaints or something. You go on the Graham Norton show and shit at the table and you only get half a dozen, you know.
Well, his missus, who was sitting next to him, she looked like she was chewing nettles as he was coming out with this guff. Sorry, truth.
I just think this 5G mast smashing is just a way to pass the time, isn't it? It's like the new smashing up phone boxes.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do when they... That's the real conspiracy. Where have they all gone?
Who?
Phone boxes.
Well, I don't know. I never thought about it.
But it was weird with Eamonn because as we went to the ad break...
Well, wait a minute. Where have they gone? Some of them are cash machines now.
Are they?
They are, yeah. And
Okay.
some of them have got little things in them that you can plug your iPad into or something. I've never seen anyone doing it.
No, I think I'd rather do that at home or maybe on the bus even. But anyway, so I was half expecting Eamonn when he came back from the ad break to be... wearing a turquoise shell suit, proclaiming himself the son of God, and maybe that Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby were in fact shape-shifting members of the Illuminati.
It's obvious things are going to get like this after this amount of time. People are going to start losing their minds, aren't they? He's just done it on national TV.
Not national TV. He's not part of that, anti-establishment.
Yeah, he's challenging the state narrative.
Absolutely mental.
Another great media moment for me was the other day when Matt Hancock, the frankly unbelievable health minister...
What? He doesn't fill you full of confidence, Robin?
No. He said he was... I always assumed he'd do this. He announced that he was going to bring out an app to trace people with the virus or contacts of people with the virus. And if anyone should know, it's Matt Hancock, because not many people will know this, but when he was at the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, that was when we had sport, Matt actually had his own app.
Nice one.
And I downloaded it, and it was blue. It was just like Facebook. And I thought he should have called it MattBook or FaceCop.
Maybe we should patent Facecock.
He was really, I think someone probably has. He was really keen, to engage with everyone, and he had comments on the app. But I don't think that keenness is bound to be fading now that he's got to handle the truth, because he was upset by if someone called him a gurning Tory wazzock on that app in the comment, I think he'd get much worse than that nowadays.
Well, especially as he doesn't have that commanding presence, does he?
No.
He doesn't inspire confidence. He looks like like a schoolboy who's on Blue Peter to receive his badge, totally out of his depths, and, you can almost see the cogs turning in his brain, and, he's probably thinking about, what we need is, lots of face masks and that, and maybe if he could put it out there that if we all sort of like reused our baked bean tins and...
Oh yeah, as we were saying, he's like someone looks like someone in one of those dream scenarios where you're like walking down the street naked while someone runs a CRB check on you or something like that.
I had one of those the other night. Not a good scene.
But this is the problem with all of them. That when they did Brexit, it was just all slogans. There was no detail, and they've reverted to that scenario. So when they do the press briefing and people ask them questions, they just say,
"Save the NHS."
very good question, they say, and then they just say, we're going to get this done. But that doesn't... It doesn't work for this.
No.
Talking of people who are going to get things done, the thing I was most interested in was Boris Johnson's sort of "I have risen" message on Sunday when he came out of hospital. And I don't want to go too deep into it because everyone else has.
Hold on a second. Was that not, Saul on the road to Damascus moment for you, that Boris rose seemingly from the dead on Easter Sunday? He is now a messianic figure. So when Boris comes on and says, let's get this done, save the NHS, I now believe him.
Well, messianic figure, people were debating, was he really that ill or did he just look a bit scruffier than usual? Well, messianic-wise, what it reminded me of was Rod Stewart. And this is a bit of a weird connection, but there was a Faces Live album in the 70s, the band that Rod Stewart was in, and it was recorded in Anaheim, and I always remember being quite taken with his intro to the set because he was very upfront and said, "Hello, Anaheim. I don't know all your names. If I did, I'd call you all your names." Johnson's actually bettered that because he actually named some of the staff.
He did, actually.
Treated him, yeah. But in a lot of ways, I then started thinking he's quite like Rod Stewart. I mean...
What? Tousled blonde hair?
He lives in a sort of fantasy world, doesn't he? He's usually in some sort of exotic location when he should be working. And he's probably lost count of his kids. Unlike Rod Stewart, right, he looks slightly less like an old woman, but that's going to change. But then I've got to mark him down in the end because he scores a lot lower than Rod because he doesn't have a substantial body of high quality early work. I don't think he's done any high quality work early or late, Johnson.
I tell you what, though, he must have been ill because this would have been a difficult place for a womanizer like Boris, being in hospital surrounded by nurses in uniform. I mean, that could be a fantasy for him,
It's there is a bit of all this Brexit stuff. See, you get Brexit back into it where they want to bring back the era of Carry On Matron and all that, don't they? Maybe he was he just got a bit overwhelmed by the situation and just decided to go back in for a bit of comfort. Historical 1960s Britain fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. Although we have been going back to the war quite a lot.
You can't have that. I mean, it's been well said, this, isn't it? You can't compare it to war because a virus isn't interested in whether you're gritty and determined, is it?
You battle it, Robin.
It doesn't react to hard-hitting speeches.
What? What are you talking about? I've built an Anderson shelter in my front garden. I'm safe from the virus, mate. There's no way it's coming for me.
I wonder if that's where Dominic Cummings is, because
exactly.
Another great media moment was him running out of Downing Street. Which now all the conspiracy theories, you're thinking, did he actually arrange to be filmed running out of Downing Street? Is it part of his incredibly intellectual, highly super intelligent master plan?
No chance. He probably saw half the cabinet coughing and wheezing.
Everyone sees him running away and he's going to double back and come round behind us. It all makes sense to me, mate.
Well, you wondered where... Do you remember at the start of this we were going to rely on herd immunity rather than social distancing? That's all died a bit of a death.
Yeah, I think they might still be sort of trying to engineer that behind the scenes.
Clear out some of these old folks, kids in deprived areas and, don't qualify to vote for you yet, and some of them that's too sick, isn't it? But yeah, that was the time of herd immunity, and that was when it was fine to go to Cheltenham, wasn't it?
Well, we'll get on to Cheltenham later.
Yes.
But right at this moment, I think we should pause to
do
what we didn't do at the start and say, we hope you enjoy the podcast, although there hasn't been one for a while. And don't forget, we're on all the platforms. We're back on Google Podcasts, which we somehow disappeared from for a while.
By popular demand, apparently.
Is it? I didn't know. It didn't say that on my app. Anyway, it's an okay app, the Google Podcast app. It's not without faults, like podcasts dropping off it, but it's all right. So we're on that. We're on Apple Podcasts, definitely now. We're on Spotify, YouTube.
Absolutely.
And you can go on any of these things, did you know, and subscribe, like it, all sorts of stuff. And we've got a website, modernmediareview.com. So we're on there, and we're going to get back to... You all right there, Sean?
Did you hear that? Hang on,
yeah,
I'm going to have to shoot off to my Anderson shelter in a minute to battle this.
Anderson shelter, are you going to take your wireless down there, Sean?
I am, yeah. Four full valves, mate.
Well, this is another thing that a media moment that it's been repeated again and again. I noticed it first on Nick Ferrari's breakfast show, which I listened to.
You're a big fan of his, aren't you?
He's a brilliant interviewer. I mean, he might be a bit dodgy right-wing geezer sometimes, but he can really nail people, and he gets much better interviews than they do on the Today programme or anywhere on the BBC. But anyway, what I noticed was, just after Johnson had come on in one of the early sort of announcements...
Did he shake his hand?
Well, I no, but he started talking like this, as if he's thumping the desk with each word. Have you noticed how they do this when it's deadly serious? It's, we will get through this. And I thought, when did that start?
Hang on, Robin, that was with great gravitas. I'm impressed with that.
But that's what I mean, as if just saying it like that means more or something. And then I noticed the same day that Nick Ferrari, he normally he talks so fast he sort of drops the end of the sentence like the start of the next one. He virtually did the same thing word for word as if it was a public service announcement. This has become a thing. People saying things just like that, hasn't it? Who started this?
Get this done. Probably Trump. No, actually, I'll tell you who it was. It was some bloke from London who I was standing behind in a newsagent's in Magaluf in the 80s, and he was desperately trying to buy some cigarettes. And in the end, he was having no luck because this ignorant Spaniard couldn't speak English. And he had to say, for fuck's sake, he goes, listen, love, 20 Bensons. But he then had to string it out, 20 Bensons.
And did it work?
It did work, yeah. So I think
that's the thing. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're thinking everyone's so stupid and we virtually talk a different language, which is quite true in some instances, that if they spell it out like that. I don't know, I wondered if it was Peston who started it, but he's more like an elongator, isn't he, rather than a slow talker.
Yeah, if he had a beard, he'd be stroking it, you always think.
Talking of getting fags, he's a beard stroker. Did you notice that did you read about that guy?
No.
In France, who got arrested at the border? He was used to going across the border, across the Pyrenees into Spain.
Cheap fags. To
get his cheap fags, and his car had broken down or something, so he just started walking over there. It's hardly an essential trip, is it?
Well, I don't know. Depends on your need, you know?
Nick Ferrari also said very helpfully that day, I wrote this down, because it's something I thought, I'm going to take this out every so often and remember it. He said that his parents' generation didn't do panic.
Exactly.
I'm not panicking.
What?
I'm not panicking at all.
Well, that generation, you see, they were the ones that were building Anderson shelters in their back gardens.
You can't do that if you're in a panic. You put it up all wrong. This generation can't even put up an IKEA bookshelf, can they?
No, they can't.
There's a whole other podcast here about people sort of have this idea in their mind of a kind of post-apocalyptic world, haven't they? And they all somehow think that they would be among the survivors.
Well, everyone does.
99.9% of people would be white. They'd be clonked over the head by a looter immediately.
Well, exactly. It's a bit like schizophrenia, isn't it? Anyone that has schizophrenia, for their sort of like alter egos, it's always like Napoleon or Cleopatra or Caesar. It's never that bloke that cleans the public toilets down in Wandsworth, is it?
I think that when it started out, there was a real naivety. I wrote down one comment from a guy on the BBC Sport website when people were still going to football matches and stuff like that, and they'd just been cancelled, and he said like something like, oh, Queen of the South VAR, you could have got 10 square metres for every punter. Everyone was joking like that, but actually that naivety's all gone now, isn't it? People actually are keeping metres away from each other, apart from the joggers.
And bike riders. I don't like that. Those middle-aged men in lycra, all three abreast across the road, you know. Well, I was trying to get up to the Epsom Common the other day. I was having a picnic out in out
barbecue.
On the common. Yeah, barbecue, yeah. And
sunbathing.
And sunbathing. And I couldn't get there in the car because there's a load of bloody cyclists out and about.
It's terrible. You know, one went past me on the pavement the other day and rang his bell. For me to get out of the way. There wasn't any cars on the road.
I hope you clocked him.
Anyway, did you hear that? Right at the beginning of this, a favourite moment of mine was Samantha Flower. Have you heard of her?
No.
She's a Tory councillor in Sheffield.
Okay.
And she said right at the start when they were talking about their herd immunity and all this stuff, she actually said, the government measures are a crime against the country. It was fantastic. She said, I'm saying this as a Tory councillor and I don't care if I get sacked.
Whoa, okay. So she was broadcasting from the bunker, a bit like Eamonn Holmes.
But I don't know if she got sacked. I went and had a look today, and I can't find out any news about her at all.
She may be in isolation somewhere.
Yeah, but you think about it, she's social care manager for Sheffield City Council. That can't be Tory run, so she wouldn't get sacked, would she? The best quote of the whole Sorry episode has got to be, I mean, not best, but the most appalling quote is Johnson's utterly cynical. You know, just before he went into hospital, I think, when he was in self-isolation.
Yeah.
When he said, there is such a thing as society. You know, reversing Thatcher's...
Yes. There's no such thing as society.
General indictment of humanity.
Yeah.
Which she totally despised humanity, didn't she, really? It's because he realised he suddenly needed society.
Yes.
Not like his family are going to come round with an oxygen mask, is it?
Well, it made me laugh because Boris Johnson, Rab, Hancock, Priti Patel, haven't seen much of her recently, and Gove all voted in 2017 against a pay rise for the nurses.
Well, quite right. You want to keep these nurses keen, mate.
They need to be motivated, don't they?
Exactly. I've got this horrible feeling that Johnson's going to get kudos for saying this as if he's had a Damascene conversion, but you know, he's partly to blame for all his wandering around shaking hands with coronavirus patients and, you know, this is no problem, and his old man saying I'm going down to the pub and all that. Absolutely appalling.
Maybe he thought that was going to be his Lady Diana moment, you know, hugging people with HIV as she did.
I'll bet he did. And look where it got him.
But all he was doing was shaking hands with somebody who'd been snotting over his hands 2 minutes earlier. A bit like Hancock. Did you see Hancock?
No.
Unbelievable. He's shown on TV walking along. He's drinking out of his coffee thing, which always annoys me. It's a particular pet hate of mine.
It's so pretentious, isn't it?
Striding along.
Can't they wait to sit down till they have a cup of coffee?
Oh, I feel like lumping them every time I see them. Anyway,
when we were young, you didn't have. You could wait. You could wait till you got into a cafe or got home and have a cup of tea or coffee, couldn't you?
Exactly. Don't stride around drinking it like it's some sort of like Popeye eating spinach. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, so he slurps it and hands it to a lackey, and then he's snotting his nose is running, and he puts his arm across it and then wipes it on his trousers.
I know I keep saying the next one's the greatest moment, but there was an even better one I found. I was researching this debate about Johnson the other day on Twitter. They were all talking about, you know, how ill he'd been and whether it was great that he was better. And I think it is great that he was better because I'd rather have him in charge than Priti Patel or Dominic Raab.
Yes.
But in the middle of this tweet I just found, I knew this had to come out sooner or later, right? Someone was saying, I'm glad Johnson's got better. I'm not going to say who it was. I can't be bothered giving them a name check. Someone was saying, blah, 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 and Johnson's he's been a real breath of fresh air. The country hasn't recovered from mistakes made under the last Labour government.
Too true.
It was bound to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The previous Labour government had to be to blame for this.
Absolutely, without doubt. And also what they're going to be to blame for is the coming financial meltdown that we're all going to have to go through. I'm going to blame that on Tony Blair.
So that's it, mate. It was the previous Labour government.
I knew
as usual.
It only underlines the point, doesn't it? This whole coronavirus thing.
There's a whole generation of people now who don't even remember the previous Labour government, isn't there?
It's still their fault, though, Robin.
Actually, it's not quite the only ones to blame. I think we've got to own up here because of our racing affiliations to say that actually we're the ones to blame, not the previous Labour government, because of everyone going to the Cheltenham Festival.
Well, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't the shrewdest thing to do to have 250,000 people on top of each other spluttering pints of Guinness over each other. No,
but it's become a sort of go-to easy for people like the two people I noted down who'd said it. Well, Nigel Farage was all over it pretty early on. Then yesterday morning, Nicky Campbell started blethering on about it as if the Cheltenham Festival started the whole thing. I mean, obviously, some people will have got it there and come back and spread it around a bit, but you can't just single that out. They were taking government advice, weren't they? Go ahead, make your money.
Well, exactly. And also, Farage dresses like he should be at Cheltenham, and Nicky Campbell was probably on a freebie there and didn't even realise it.
All sorts of... those tweed outfits harbour all sorts of viruses. They're very nasty. I never get anywhere near someone wearing a tweed outfit. You don't know what's in there. It's like a grotty beard, isn't it?
Exactly. They're still probably harbouring mad cow disease in there.
Yeah, and foot and mouth.
So yeah, it was a bit harsh to blame it all on Cheltenham, but
There was one chink of light
Yes.
before we go, wasn't there? It's obvious where that chink would come from.
Ireland for a start. And it has to be, well, Bono. Bono saving the world.
He's always the one who steps in, isn't he? He's a modern-day Batman in human form. Was Batman human? I don't know. I'm not into superheroes. Was he semi-human? Yeah.
No, full human.
Yeah, Bono's going to help out.
He's personally saving Ireland from coronavirus, which is fantastic, really.
That's not actually right, is it?
Oh, no, masks. He's providing masks.
He's providing masks.
Personally.
Yeah.
He is. Well, he's been on the blower to South Korean president or prime minister, whatever it is.
It says here, Bono helps in search for medical supplies. That makes him sound like something out of Indiana Jones, doesn't it? You can imagine him leading a little team around, every last nook and cranny, lads.
Or maybe like one of those weirdos you see out on the common with a metal detector, that maybe he's hoping to find some masks in a hedge somewhere or something,
Well, I'm pinning my hopes on Bono because he's done all right before, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
I'm glad he's going to help out because I'd rather have him in charge. No, I wouldn't actually. I'd rather have Boris Johnson in charge.
Are you not a big U2 fan, Robin?
Or even Jim Kerr.
Well, that's a poor man's Bono, isn't it, Jim Kerr?
The Simple Minds were miles ahead of U2. That's what people forget.
Yeah, but Belfast Child, mate, that's all I'm going to say.
No, but earlier on, they were actually musically ahead. U2 copied them.
Well, I was a fan of their early stuff, a bit like Self Robin, when they were playing in telephone boxes, when you used to have telephone boxes.
This is the problem with coronavirus, is you start listening to all this old stuff, because
you've got nothing else to do.
Absolutely nothing else to do except pointless podcasts.
Well, on that note...
One of which seems to have gone on for a rather long time, so I think we should wrap it up there. But given that we haven't been around for ages, apart from saying thanks for listening, we're going to say we'll be back soon with another podcast, won't we?
Absolutely.
Assuming no death, no Apple Mac operating system failures, no Windows audio failures, and
exactly
no intervention from Bono. We'll be okay, and we'll be back.
I'm just going to pop out now and try and help Bono search for medical supplies.
Yes, well, he should be sending a party round any moment.
Just waiting for the call, really.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. And we'll speak to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Catch you next time.
Bye.